Current federal policy. The United States issues so-called green cards to about 1 million new legal permanent residents every single year. So according to the Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. issued 5.25 million green cards in the last 5 years for an average of 1.05 million new permanent immigrants annually. That's people who are staying here. New lifetime immigrants admitted with green cards gain guaranteed legal access to federal benefits, as well as guaranteed work authorization. They can also petition to bring in their relatives to the United States, and both the petitioner and the relatives can become naturalized citizens. So if Congress does not pass legislation to cut immigration rates, the United States will legally add at least 10 million new permanent immigrants over the next 10 years, a block of new residents larger than the cities of Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, Boston, Denver, St. Louis, and Dallas combined. Does that put it in real terms? Let me repeat. 1 million permanent legal residents are being admitted into this country every year. Obviously, that's 10 million over the next decade. If Congress does not pass legislation, this is legal immigration, to cut these rates, that's 10 million new permanent immigrants added over the next decade, a block of new residents larger than the cities of Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, Boston, Denver, St. Louis, and Dallas combined. In post-World War II boom decades of the 50s and 60s, annual legal admissions were roughly two-thirds lower. And I can go on. Beginning around 1970, a series of immigration changes enacted in 1965, as I explained to you, and it's in Liberty and Tyranny, it's in my new book, Plunder and Deceit, they began to take hold. And since that time, the foreign-born population of the United States has increased fourfold to well over 40 million in 2013. In some cities like Los Angeles and New York City, about 4 in 10 residents were born outside the United States. The share of prime-age men, 25 to 54 years old, who are not working has more than tripled since the late 1960s. Since the turn of the century, the share of women without paying jobs has been rising too. This is why the American people are getting furious. This is why the Reagan Democrats are looking for a leader. This is why the American people are fed up with Washington, D.C., among many other reasons. And yet the hardcore left see this as part of their counter-revolution to the American Revolution. And they see it this way because this is a reliable Democrat voting bloc. In 1980, the failed president, Jimmy Carter, utterly, completely a failure in every respect, running against Ronald Reagan, who had a massive victory. Carter got 56% of the Hispanic vote. It's Latino, but Hispanic is actually a made-up word by the Census Bureau when Nixon's administration ran, but that's what they call it, I'll call it. So in 1980, while Carter was going down to a historic landslide defeat, and Reagan was winning state after state in the Electoral College and the popular vote, Carter got 56% of the Hispanic vote, Reagan 35%. So Carter beat Reagan in the Hispanic vote by 21%. In 1984, when Ronald Reagan's popularity was through the roof, the economy was chugging along. Our foreign policy was pushing the Soviets back. He had one of the biggest landslides in American electoral history. And when he was running in 1984, during his debate, one of them with Walter Mondale, he said he supported amnesty. And in 1986, we had amnesty. Do you know Walter Mondale, in a historic defeat, got 61% of the Hispanic vote, Ronald Reagan 37%, for a differential of 24%? Michael Dukakis, running against George H.W. Bush, the kinder and gentler. And all the Bushies running around, the Pete Wainers and the Michael Gersons, the Karl Roves and all the rest of them. Feckless. Dukakis got 69% of the Hispanic vote. George H.W. Bush got 30%, a differential of 39%. Do you know George H.W. Bush won California? Oh, I know. In less than 30 years, this has occurred. Let's go to 1992. Bill Clinton running against George H.W. Bush. Bill Clinton got 61% of the Hispanic vote. George H.W. Bush, 25%, a 36% differential. But 1996, Bill Clinton did not get a majority of the popular vote. just under 50%. He got 72% of the Hispanic vote. Bob Dole got 21%, a 51% differential. 72%, those are Saddam Hussein numbers. 2000, George W. Bush, governor of Texas, said to be really, really good on this issue. Better than any other Republican. He could appeal to Hispanics. Al Gore got 62% of the Hispanic vote. George W. Bush got 35%, a differential of 27%. 2004, John Kerry against George W. Bush. George W. Bush pushing his so-called comprehensive immigration reform. Kerry got 58% of the Hispanic vote. George W. Bush 40%, a differential of 18%. That is a landslide loss in the Hispanic vote for George W. Bush. I know the Bushies are so proud of their 40%. 40% of anything is a loss. 2008, Barack Obama against John McCain. John McCain, Mr. Amnesty. John McCain, Mr. Open Borders, right? Obama got 67% of the vote. McCain got 31% of the vote, a 36% differential. My point is, it almost doesn't matter who the Democrats run. It almost doesn't matter who the Republicans run. As a group, immigrants today are different than immigrants 100 years ago. Immigrants today are different than immigrants 50 years ago. And the reason is simple. Number one, they're self-selecting because of chain migration. And number two, we have a massive welfare state. And you have to be a fool to acknowledge that this is, among many, many people coming into this country, a primary reason. I said a primary reason. And those who are libertarians out there, especially those who have radio shows and so forth and TV shows and say, no. I would cite Dr. Milton Friedman, who made the case better than I. You cannot have a welfare state in open borders. You cannot have a welfare state in free immigration. 2012, Barack Obama versus Mitt Romney. Now, apparently Mitt Romney has appointed himself some kind of Republican kingmaker because now the buffoonish Kasich has met with him today. They had lunch. Thinking to myself, this guy Romney's a complete loser. Why is he a kingmaker? Well, he's not. He doesn't meet with conservatives, you'll notice. Obama got 71% of the Hispanic vote. Mitt Romney got 27%, a 44% differential. So of all the moderate Republicans, Romney, McCain, Bush, Dole, Bush again, none of them got over 40%. None of them. So if we continue to import people into this country, and I'm not just talking about Latinos, but people from the third world who come into this country, they're not assimilated, they're not Americanized. How do you think they're going to vote? Do you think they're going to sit there and study the Constitution? You think they're going to think about federalism? Free market capitalism, which is foreign to their culture in many places, foreign to their experience in many places? Or do you think they're going to respond positively to people who keep telling them that they should get stuff like health care, like welfare benefits, like the earned income tax credit, just keep showering benefits on them? Who do you think they're going to vote for? Well, the Democrats know who they're going to vote for. So they seek to destroy this country so they can have permanent power. They don't care about the American culture. They don't care about the civil society. And the Republicans, they're even worse because they deceive and they lie. In order to get elected, they tell you one thing, then they do another because they're bought and paid for by big crony capitalists and donors and consultants. This is all a game for them. This is all inside baseball for them. This is a way to line their pockets with government subsidies. For the rest of us, it's real world. It has real effects. It has effects on our children in their schools. It has effects on our children and their job opportunities. It has effects on law enforcement and hospitals and their budgets and their capacity to do what they're supposed to do. There are two Americas in this country. There's the ruled, us, and our rulers. It was never supposed to be this way, but it is this way. And that's why I've spent the first 3 segments of my first hour, the first 45 minutes of this show, presenting you with overwhelming facts, burped up by your own federal government, to build the case against continuing this. I don't expect you to take notes. I don't expect you to memorize anything. Of course not. But I just want you to know whether it's this or the environment or the debt or entitlements, or the minimum wage, national security, the Constitution, I've made the case for liberty, for prosperity, for law and order, for the Constitution, for security from our enemies. I've made the case in plunder and deceit. We need to make the case to our fellow citizens before this election. We're running out of time. I truly believe this. I believe the hour is short. So wherever we can, whenever we can, we need to try and make a difference. I'm not a Pollyanna. I don't think one election is going to turn things around. 10, 20 elections might. But we're now reaching a point where we're not going to be able to win elections for a multitude of reasons. As the left continues to feed off of our capitalist system as it destroys it, uses our liberty, what's left of it, our legal system, what's left of it, our Constitution, what's left of it, against us. We have got to make the case. There are many millions of you listening to this program. If you make the case to one or two people, just family members, your kids or grandkids, you will have done an important job.